Hey guys, hope you are doing well. I'm sure by now all of you know about what's been happening at Miss USA with all the resignations of both title holders, amongst other people. And I was going to leave well enough alone because it happened a while ago. And then I saw this post, this story on Noelia's Instagram that apparently now she has been blocked from the Miss USA page as well as the Miss Teen USA page. And I thought, well, this thing is just getting to the... It's almost laughable how ridiculous some people are being. And so I thought I'd give some of my thoughts on what's been happening. And because I'm a YouTuber, I would do it in the form of a tier list, because why not? So you can see a few people or a few symbols down here, and I'll go through them one at a time. I mean, starting with Noelia herself, I mean, I think it's not going to be any surprise that I'd put her up in S tier. I think she obviously made a very, very difficult choice. I don't need to tell you how difficult it would be to win the position, win the title that she did. Probably the biggest title in world pageantry, second maybe only to Miss Universe, although you could argue that in the USA, Miss USA is just as big. The title of Miss USA is just as big as Miss Universe. And for her to step away, not only that, not only to step away, but to do it, she did it in a very classy way. She didn't put any allegations out there. Yes, she did the whole "I am silenced," which I thought was interesting because there was an interview with her mum, and the interviewer asked her mum whether that "I am silenced" message was there on purpose. And I mean, obviously it was. I mean, what are the chances that just happens randomly? And her mum wouldn't answer. But, you know, that aside, and I can certainly understand why that had to be there because of the NDA, she handled it with as much grace and elegance, I think, as you could reasonably ask anyone to, given the circumstances that have since come to light, and really mainly because of the Miss USA side, not because of her side. And so for her to step away and sort of give the organization and give Laylah Rose, the organization being Miss USA, give them a chance to sort of go, okay, we screwed up, she's resigned, we better get our act together. And instead, I think they just kind of have kept digging their grave deeper and deeper. I think that showed a lot of class on her side. And I have to say, I hadn't followed her particularly closely because I just haven't really been involved in pageantry for probably the last year or so, at least, maybe going a little bit even before that. But to see the way she's handled herself since then, given the circumstances, I think says a lot about her character. And I think there's no better vouch for her character than the number of people who've come out of the woodwork to support her. So she goes up for me in S tier. Now, Miss USA itself as a system, I'm not going to put in D tier. I'm going to put in C tier. Yes, they have handled as an organization the whole situation terribly. I don't think they could have handled it any worse than they did. And in fact, if you really, in terms of digging their own grave, I mean, look at this. I'm sure this wasn't here before, but they've written in their bio, this page is monitored, comments may be deleted or blocked. I'm sorry, that's just not a good look. I mean, you're basically saying if we disagree with you, it's not like if you post hateful comments. That's not what people like this ever put that up for. What that really is saying, if we disagree with anything you say or we dislike anything you say, even if it's valid, we are going to delete and block it. And we've made it very clear that we're going to do that. And that just seems a bit tyrannical and authoritarian, doesn't it? For an organization that's supposed to be about women using their voices, you're only going to let them use their voice when you agree with what they say. But you might say, okay, well then, Adrian, why are you putting in CT? It's because Miss USA is Miss USA. I think Miss USA as a system could do pretty much anything, and you're still going to have a boatload of young women all around America wanting to enter it, and you're still going to have a boatload of men and women all around the world watching it to see who takes home the title, to see the gowns, to see all of it. So I think it's pretty close to D tier, but just because of the brand name itself, I'm going to leave it at C tier, although it's very, very close to D tier. Speaking of D tier, yeah, Laylah, sorry, you're going in D tier. Now, I don't know Laylah directly at all. Here's what I will say. She's the co-founder or co-owner of VIP Pageantry. This is the only sort of interaction I've had with her. And I received a message from them back in the day, I think it was during the early days of COVID, saying, hey, we just wanted to, and I'm paraphrasing here, I can't find the message, but it was saying basically, hey, we love your content, and we're just inviting you to put your content on our platform. And I don't know they had an app. I know they have a YouTube channel and some sort of web presence, and some of it's maybe monetized. I don't know. I didn't look at it that carefully, because the essence of it was they wanted me to put all the interviews and podcasts that I was creating out of my own blood, sweat, and tears, put it on their platform, and receive absolutely nothing in return. You know, it was that old, oh, you'll get exposure, you'll get views. And I looked at their YouTube channel on their app, and they were getting fewer views on equivalent content than I was. And this was with an Instagram presence that was sizably bigger than mine. So I just thought, you know, I don't appreciate working with people like that who say basically, hey, you do all the work and we'll profit off of it, but hey, you'll get exposure in return. I can tell you, after having worked in pageantry for 7 years and given hundreds, if not thousands of my, definitely would be thousands of hours of my own time at this stage, I didn't appreciate that. So I don't think I even responded. And that's the only, now I don't know if that came from Laylah, but that was an organization that she obviously was a very big part of. And so when this whole sort of scandal hit and I saw who was in charge, I'm not going to say it was a huge surprise. In terms of why I would put her in D tier, it's because I think the way she responded to Noelia's resignation, and basically that really sort of just boilerplate, hey, ChatGPT, write me a response to this resignation and make it basically say nothing but make us look good. It was just so pathetic. It really was. There was not an ounce of humanity in it. I, in fact, got ChatGPT to act as a sort of a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I got it to analyze Laylah's statement through Miss USA, and it basically said this has all the telltale signs of being a narcissist. And I strongly agree with that, because that was my inclination. I got it to also look at Noelia's statement and said there's no signs of narcissism here at all. And I've had some experience firsthand with narcissistic directors and narcissistic people in the pageant world, and it doesn't go well. It's very difficult to work with them, if at all. They gaslight you continuously. They make everything about themselves, and it's not like they lie. I was thinking about this. They don't lie, but they have such a warped view of the world that their truth looks like a lie. But the thing is, they really believe their warped view of the world, and everything revolves around them. Everything is about them, which is classic narcissism. And so I put her down in D tier. I don't know if there's anything at this stage that she can do to persuade me otherwise. I think this addition to the Miss USA bio, obviously, it ain't there without her knowing about it. I just think that's the last nail in the coffin for me. I just think it's ridiculous. The other thing with narcissists is how fragile their ego is. And yeah, it's not a good look. Now, moving on to Savannah herself. Now, Savannah, who obviously took up the Miss USA title, I go back and forth on this. I'm not going to put it down in D tier, but I was thinking of B tier or B tier or C tier. And I think you could argue either way. I personally, as much as you can say this, and I don't think you can say this, but if I was in her shoes, I personally would not have taken the title on. Given, now I know that she stated that she didn't know exactly like everything that had gone on, so we didn't see her statement. Here it is. I'm not going to read out the whole thing because I'm sure you've seen it, but basically, I fully support and respect Noelia's decision, etc., etc. Now, that's all saying the right stuff, and it certainly looks like she could put what remains of the title, anyway, the months that she has, to good use, and I see no reason why she wouldn't do that. But it's kind of this this statement where it says, "To my fellow Miss USA sisters, I believe it's crucial for us to stand united for the future of the organization." Now, I don't like it. I don't like those words because it puts the welfare of the organization above the welfare of the individual. The organization doesn't have a welfare outside the welfare of its individuals, does it? I mean, there's no point if you have an organization or business that's making a lot of profit, but everyone in it is miserable and their mental health is terrible, then that's the only thing that really, really matters, unless you're just looking at exceedingly the short term. But I don't like this idea that we need to stand united. Well, it's like, well, if we're going to stand united, then we all have to agree. Otherwise, we're not united. I mean, pretty much, maybe not on all the details, but on the big things, we're going to have to agree. And I don't think, I mean, given the statement that a lot of the Miss USA state title holders got behind, which is somewhere this one that was here, given that so many of them stood behind this, it's pretty hard pressed to see how you could stand united. And again, it's putting the future of the organization and the organization's welfare ahead of the welfare of the former title holder. And I don't like the wording of that. But then again, I don't want to be too harsh on the girl. I don't know her. She seems to be, by everything that I've seen, a perfectly sensible and hardworking girl. And I did see her mother's statement about apparently people have been attacking Savannah. And I know pageant fans and what they can be like, and I can certainly see that would have happened, and that should never happen. But her mother, I mean, Mama Bear jumping in to represent her daughter, I do understand that. But saying that, you know, if someone has a valid criticism of Savannah taking on the title, that's different to someone attacking her personally. And someone attacking her personally, I have no time for. But it's very easy to have a valid criticism of her taking on the title after, even if she didn't know exactly why Noelia stood down, given how much even I know about it, you know that she stood down not completely just because of her own mental health. And if her mental health had gone that badly, you know it must have had something to do with the system as well. So this is why I say I wouldn't have taken on the title. You can say, but, you know, it was her dream to, etc., etc. And I've seen this argument put around, but like, oh, you shouldn't attack the system. You shouldn't talk about this because future title holders, their dreams will be dashed. And it's like, I'm fairly certain that when you had the dream of being Miss USA, that you had the dream in terms of being a title holder of a system that you looked up to, not a system that seems to be burning down in flames around us. So I don't buy that whole, oh, you're stealing the dreams of other girls. Having said that, I don't know. You know, I can't say what it's like to be in her shoes because I never will be. And she seems to be putting it to good use. And I think it's fairly common sense that if she hadn't taken it, someone along the line probably would have. And hey, she might have thought, well, I'll at least put it to good use. That's what I can promise. And maybe that's exactly what happened. Still, I wouldn't have taken it on. So I think B is fair. I think C would be harsh without knowing more of the details, but we'll move on. Now, UmaSofia, I'm putting her up in S tier. She, again, I don't know her particularly, well, I hardly know her at all outside of what you guys probably know in terms of being the public. But I really liked this statement that she put out. I mean, starting with a Nietzsche quote is always going to grab my attention because obviously that indicates a certain level of having read well and being educated well, having good awareness. I really like her statement. Even the opening saying that she had to grapple with the decision and that she's made the choice to resign, and saying that my personal values no longer fully align. Again, it's like Noelia in terms of being classy, but still holding your ground. And she's moved on to bigger and better things, and I hope she continues to do so. So I've got nothing but praise for her, and I hope she continues to do well in the future. Now, the other young woman I'm going to put into S tier is Stephanie. Now, if you know what Stephanie did, this is her statement. She was offered, like Savannah was with Noelia's title, Stephanie was offered UmaSofia's title after UmaSofia resigned, and she didn't take it on. She decided to decline it. Now, I think that's absolutely amazing. Again, I don't. It's very dangerous to read too much into, well, the team decided to pass on the title, but the Miss didn't. You can't draw equivalencies there. I mean, you can, but I think that'd be ill-advised. But even given that, I still think it just shows so much character for her to refuse the title. And I think this is probably one of the classiest things I've seen in pageantry ever. And I've been around pageantry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of stuff that just really made me wonder what the future of the whole industry was going to be. And I still wonder, given these events of the last few months. But seeing something like this really reminds me, I'm not going to say it fills me with hope because it's only one person's actions, but it is a very salient reminder that there are really, really amazing individuals in pageantry. And that's amazing. And what I do want to say is I draw this as being separate from because of pageantry. I don't think Stephanie, and I've messaged her a couple of times before Miss Teen USA, so I don't know her well at all, but I'm going to bet that someone like her had this sort of character without pageantry. And I think that shows a lot about her upbringing. I'm going to assume her parents and the people she has around her. And I think it's amazing when such a young woman can show so much character. Because, I mean, let's face it, Miss Teen USA is an absolutely massive title. It's probably the biggest teen title in the world. So, you know, to turn that down, I think that's huge. So she goes up in S tier as well. Now, Miss Universe itself, I'm going to put in C tier. I think Miss Universe, I've not been a fan of its direction ever since a new director took over, and it's just been scandal after scandal after scandal. Since Crystal Stewart resigned or was forced to resign, the circumstances of that was bad enough with the sexual inappropriateness and all of that was happening with her partner and those young women. And then to bring in someone who, not only the fact that basically declared bankruptcy straight away, or was it a few months before their first, before the Miss Universe that they ran, and then some of the branding decisions, I think it was like bottled water, and it was like, that's like if BMW or Rolls-Royce decided, you know, we're running out of money, I know what we'll do, we'll start selling bottled water. It just, in my opinion, it cheapened the brand, and I've said as much in the past. And then the scandals that have followed since then, particularly that leaked video footage, which I think is real. Some people have said it was faked, deep faked, but I know quite a lot about artificial intelligence, and I don't think that was the case in this case. And that leaked footage of where they're saying basically all the inclusivity that they've purported to be a fan of, to be in favor of, they said, oh, basically it's just an act. They can enter, but they'll never win. And then some of the other people that they've brought on who have, to be fair, they've said heinous things in the past. I don't know if there's any coming back for this brand. I don't think that can happen under its current leadership. And whether it can be resuscitated by someone, I think that will take someone who frankly has more of a moral backbone than the current leadership is showing. And I don't know where this is going to end up. But I'm putting it in C tier for the same reason I'm putting Miss USA in C tier, only because it's Universe. And again, they could run over, you know, kittens in a truck and there'd still be girls lining up to enter. So the brand means something for now. It might not be meaning anything for much longer. Now, why is Krusty the Clown here? Krusty the Clown represents all the directors that jumped in under the resignation announcements and all of that and said, hey, Miss USA might be trash, but our pageant's better. Come and join our pageant. No, don't. I mean, if you've been around pageantry long enough, you know you're kind of holding your breath and going, please don't do that. Please don't be that person. Please don't. Please don't. And then you just have to scroll 2 times, 3 times, and there it is. Someone going, hey, Miss USA might be trash, but our Miss System is great. Come join us. And you're just like, that's like asking someone out on a date at a funeral. It's just, it's just not right. And so I've just lumped them in as Krusty because I think they're all a bunch of clowns. Don't do that. I know some directors don't have a problem poaching other contestants, and maybe even it's par for the course with the way pageantry is, but don't do it in this situation. Let's leave the floor open for an actual conversation about mental health and about getting proper directorship in. Don't throw that in there. That's just bad. Claudia Michelle, who I have interviewed in the past, and I do know her. I put her up in A tier only because I don't think you're giving up quite as much as a Miss USA title holder by stepping away. But what I really liked about Claudia's statement was that she went in, because she wasn't under the NDA, so she was able to go into some detail about what had happened. And it takes a deal of courage to, even if you're resigning, to actually state, even to the degree that she did, what had gone on behind the scenes. She didn't have to do that. She could have just resigned and not made a statement, or resigned and just made a very nondescript statement. But she actually gave some reasoning, which, knowing her to the degree that I do, it doesn't surprise me at all. And so, and I'm sure that both Noelia and UmaSofia really appreciated that Claudia sort of laid the groundwork here. So people kind of knew. I mean, there've been so many resignations from the Miss USA team at this point, but people kind of knew, okay, it's not just, let's say, Noelia being a diva or being difficult to work with. Because if it was just her who had resigned, you might have been able to argue that without knowing what had gone on behind the scenes. But when both title holders resign and Claudia has resigned, and I think another 2 people resigned, I don't remember their names. Forgive me, as I said, I don't follow these sorts of things on a daily basis. But you kind of know something's going on when you have this many resignations in such a short period of time. So I'm putting her up in A tier. Now, Arianna Lemus, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but Miss Colorado USA, who decided to step down from her title in solidarity with both Noelia and UmaSofia. I think that's amazing for someone to show that kind of solidarity, because there are a lot of people in pageantry who talk a good game, but then when it actually comes to action, they don't do it. They don't do anything. It's like the people who talk about mental health, and then they go and write a nasty comment on social media. It's like, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. And this obviously is a woman who's brave enough to do that. Now, you could argue, because I think the next Miss Colorado state pageant is only maybe a couple of weeks away, I think. And so you could argue, okay, maybe she didn't have that much to lose. And I would agree with that. I mean, most of the reign is over and she's already competed at Miss USA, but still, it still takes some courage to step up and do this, because in pageantry, there's this belief, right or wrong, and I think it's somewhere in between, that if you do something like this, you're going to be viewed as a troublemaker for the rest of your pageant career, and there's going to be a lot of people who won't want to touch you. I say screw that and do what you think is right. So I really like what Arianna did. I applaud it. I'm going to put her up in A tier along with Claudia, just because, I love what she did. It's just not quite the same, obviously, as giving up the national title. So A tier it is for her. Now, this is the statement that which is on Arianna's page as well. This statement that a lot of the state title holders put up. So I'm talking about the title holders who were brave enough to put up this message on their socials, I'm putting that up in A tier because they were showing solidarity. And again, for the same reasons as I said with Arianna, that can sort of black book you or blacklist you in the pageant world. At least that's the belief, rightly or wrongly. And so it takes some courage to stand behind that statement. They didn't have to do that. So all the women who stood behind this statement, for me, they're going in A tier as well. And then lastly, the CW, who's going to be the network who signed the deal to televise Miss USA for the next 3 years. I believe they did it last year as well. They say they're re-evaluating. Now, as far as I can tell, they haven't reached a decision yet, but they say they don't condone bullying of any kind. For now, I'm going to put them in B tier because I like the fact that they've even said we're considering, because that shows that they take the bullying at least somewhat seriously and they at least have some idea what's going on. And you might say, well, Adrian, what's a big deal? Everyone knows. The CW is a properly big network, and for them to actually even release a statement to show that they're aware of this, it's nice to see that they're taking it at least somewhat seriously on the face of it. Now, I don't think they're going to blow up the contract to televise Miss USA. I really wish they would. And I say that because my belief is in a situation like this. And when I saw initially what was happening at Miss USA, I was pretty sure what was going to happen, which would be that, you know, Noelia would release her statement. UmaSofia's released her statement. There's going to be a bunch of people showing support for them. There's going to be a bunch of hate come down on Miss USA, but they're going to avoid, they're going to dodge, they're going to release the boilerplate statement, and then they released some shade as well, which I thought was just pathetic. But they're going to dodge and weave and just rely on the pageant industry's memories not being that great, and then it'll come Miss USA time, it'll be televised, everyone will be blown away by the gowns and the new title holder, and not that everything will be forgiven, but it'll be forgotten. And that, again, this is also why I put Miss USA as a system higher than the director, Laylah, because the system's reputation is somewhat separate from the directors. Of course, they're intertwined, but it is separate. And the only way, remember, I really believe that we're dealing with a narcissistic director here at heart, and the only way to get through to someone like that is, in this case, I'm afraid, the money. And the money is in the televised deal. And the only way that she'll finally realize that she's done something wrong and she's going to get called on it is if that CW contract goes up in flames. And then she will go, oh crap, I actually have screwed up. And then maybe she'll be replaced. I don't know, because there must be some money in that deal. But I can't find whether CW has decided either way. My opinion is that they're not going to. I think they probably believe that issuing a statement saying that they don't condone bullying and then saying that they've investigated, and after investigation we've decided to go ahead, they'll probably feel that cleans their hands of the whole situation, and they'll go ahead anyway, because apparently the ratings last year were better than expected, which is why they signed a 3-year deal. My issue with that is that gets Laylah off the hook. And, you guys, here's the thing that I will say, and that I want to close on. If you really, really want to make a difference, and by a difference I mean basically kicking this director out, or at least holding her accountable, with someone like this, the only thing that really works is something like money. The things that just even a narcissist can't look at and go, oh, it's everyone else's fault but me. And in this case, that really comes down to that CW deal, that televised deal. I think the other sponsorships and stuff, be they what they may, is, if Miss USA lost them, I think Laylah would still say that that's other people's fault, and she'd still have her view of whatever it is that's going on. But if they lose a television deal, that's going to be huge. And so here's the thing. If you really want to make a difference in this case and hold this directorship to account, the best way that you can do it is to unfollow Miss USA, unfollow Miss Teen USA, not engage or share with any of their posts, and not watch. Wait till someone puts it up on YouTube or something and watch then. But here's what's going to, and I know that's asking a lot if you're a huge pageant fan. I get that. But if you watch, if you follow, if you share, what's to stop Laylah from doing this again? Nothing. I've worked with people like this, and I'm sure some of you have too. You've worked with narcissists, and you know that in their way they view their world, one of the things is that they think they're always right, and they shun everyone who disagrees with them. They're just kicked out. And so the only way that you're going to make a difference in this case is by basically hitting Miss USA where it hurts, which unfortunately is a wallet. And I think that's really sad because the girls who are involved in Miss USA this year would affect them. But, you know, do we want to make a difference or not? It's really up to us. So if you want to make a difference, don't engage with the content, don't follow the content, don't share the content, don't watch the television because they'll see the ratings. And if CW sees the ratings have plummeted, they're going to put 2 and 2 together and say, well, all that bullying stuff that went on, obviously people aren't in favor of it and they voted with their eyeballs, and so we're out. And then Laylah probably will get held to account. And, you know, just remember that they've put up this whole page is monitored. Comments may be deleted or blocked, and I'll let you work out whether you want to be following a system that says it's about female empowerment, but then makes a statement like that. And I won't be following this. I don't want to engage with this anymore because I just get the feeling behind the scenes. I mean, you can't have this many resignations and have it not mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, if there's this much smoke, there has to be a fire somewhere. And so, you know, I'll leave this tier list here for what it's worth. I've never done a tier list before. Feel free to tell me your thoughts. But, you know, I wish the former title holders all the best because they deserve it. And young women like Stephanie having that moral fortitude and backbone to turn down the title, I think that's just absolutely amazing. And I just hope there are more women like her in pageantry.